Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm T with Teresa H Creates, and this is part 2 of the Junk Mail Junk Journal series that I'm working on this Labor Day weekend. And for those of you not in the United States, I didn't explain this in the last video and I wanted to take a minute to explain it now. In the United States, Monday is a national holiday. It's Labor Day, and so the majority of us have the day off. We don't have to work. So it's a 3-day weekend, and that is why I broke this project up into 3 videos to make it span the 3-day weekend. So today I'm working on decorating, and I did go ahead and get started. I pulled out my bag of autumn scraps. I have a lot of scraps in here. I have some rub-ons, I have a bag of die cuts, and I have some leftover ephemera from a few of these collections, so it's just partial bits of ephemera. I also have this really large bag of scraps. So these are going to be my offcuts. They're more of my neutrals. These are my background pages that I use for a lot of my junk journals. So these are going to be remnants of ledger paper, remnants of my handmade papers, just things that I've music sheet, things that I've used and I've cut off. So these are more of my neutrals, my backgrounds. It's getting really full. I'm excited that I'm going to be able to use up some of that with this project. So as I pulled my scraps out and was working on this project, I noticed that my scraps all had a different vibe. So I did go ahead and separate them into 3 different sets of scrap papers. So the first one here, just to get a sneak peek, was more of an autumn retro vibe. So that's kind of what that looks like. The second one that I started was more of a vintage vibe. You see some of that. And then the last collection that I had is a bunch of mostly Echo Park. So it's a little bit more of a cutesy vibe. It has more critters in it and everything. So that is what we're going to be working with today. And I'm not going to decorate an entire signature. We would be here all day. What I'm going to do is take out one of the elements in my signature and we will work on that. And I think that this has an envelope, but then it's also just an insert. So we will work on this. This is perfect. I'm going to set this aside for now. There is something that I'd like to point out before we get started. I do want you to know that we spent all of this time and energy dyeing a lot of this and adding ink and dye and everything to these papers and to these pages, these envelopes. And I really want that to show. I am not going to cover every square inch of this junk journal with scrap and paper. If you want to do that, you do that. That is up to you. I want it to be obvious that the base of this junk journal was made with junk mail. So I am not going to cover every little bit, but I am going to do a lot of collage and cover like the big important pieces. And then things that are just kind of peeking through, they peek through. I'm not that worried about it. Okay. So I just wanted to point that out before we get started. So this isn't going to be a cover everything kind of project. So let's see. I do like to leave a lot of writing space because it is a journal. So with this project, I'm not using a foam brush. I kind of want this just rough inking on the edges, just like this. So I'm taking the ink pad and putting it directly on the paper. And that way I'm getting kind of an overlap in these lines. I think it just adds interest, especially when I'm doing collage work. So this has got a lot of that green on it. So let's pull out some of the green papers. That is really wide. That's a little bit wider than I wanted to use, but it's also really, really pretty. Let me see if I can find a thinner strip to put down there. All right, I have this guy. And again, I don't mind if some of that is showing, so that's not a problem. I don't want the QR code showing necessarily. Okay. I like that. That's what we're going to do. Let me go ahead and ink up some of this. That little bit's going to be covered, so I'm not worried about it. Wait. Always check both sides first. Do I like that or do I like that? No, I like that bit of green. I'm going to be using my art glitter glue. I have yet to find a glue stick that I just absolutely love. It just has not happened. And I think that over time, even if it works in the short term, I think over time they end up coming up. They dry up, they come up, and it's kind of the same I'm discovering with a lot of the tapes. I've used the ATG tape runner, that big pink monstrosity. I've used that for a number of years, and I really think that it holds up well. That is majorly crooked. I'm glad I'm using wet glue. Let me pull this up. So I've been using that pink ATG tape runner for a really long time. And I think that tape holds up pretty well. But now that they're not really making a lot of the refills, or at least they're hard to find, I don't necessarily trust the refill tape. So I've been using a combo of the tape and wet glue, just so that it has a little bit more staying power. But I haven't noticed, like others have mentioned, that a lot of my pieces are falling off or falling apart. I haven't noticed that yet. Unless it was something that I did with a glue stick. That's a little bit more obvious. Okay, and then let's put a little something here. Maybe add just some scrap. Let me see if I've got a smaller piece in here. I don't want it to be too pretty. I'll leave it straight on one side. All right, let's get this put down. I guess I should have made sure it was long enough, but it doesn't really matter. It's down, and there we go. Look, easy breezy. First side done. We've got lots of journaling space. We've got lots of interest. Let's keep going. All right, now we're on the inside. Let's bring in some of those reds. That will fit right in there. That's pretty. Okay, that's cut aparts on the other side, so. Pumpkins, that's really more of Thanksgiving rather than autumn. So insert, I kind of like that blue. Look at these cute little foxes. Oh, but then that's pretty too. I am all over the place. Oh, okay. Here we go. Let's do this. That's still some good writing space. And then let's make a little pocket with these guys right here, I think. You know what? It's so important that you do these in a particular order just so that you know exactly how it's going to fit. So let me see. This envelope, I forgot, goes here. So I may need to actually do something with it sooner rather than later. So let me set those aside because now I already have a plan for this page. Okay. How much room can I give this envelope? I think there. Okay. So I've got a new score line for this, which is there. It's going to be a little bit bigger pocket. Okay. And then I'm going to cut beyond that score line because I need a flap that we're going to attach to the other side. So I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch. And then I am going to miter this. Okay, and then this is going to be my attachment. There. Okay, and that's what I was talking about. I wanted to go ahead and get that down first, and then we'll put this down. Yes, we'll figure something out. We'll do a pocket here, what have you. Okay. All right, so we will do this one last because I'll be working on that pocket. I'm going to set those aside, and then let's finish up. Let's move over to this other side of this page. Let's see what's I've got here. Some of these larger bits. Look, these pumpkins are cute. Let's bring in some of these oranges. Look at that. All right. Okay, let's see what we can do. I think that we make a big pocket here. I think that we make some writing space here. Yes. Let's put this down here for some interest. And then we will make a pocket here. How about that? Actually, let's make a pocket here, and then I'm going to put some of this over that. Okay, just for some texture and interest. Yes, yes. All right, where's my straight edge? See, it can come together pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and take some of this off. Let's figure out how much I want to leave, how much I want to take off. Let's go there. All right, and this is going to be my crackling campfire page. So we're bringing in all those oranges, red oranges, and reds. So I'm going to ink it up here. Look, and I just love that look. I love that rough look like that. Okay. Let's get this glued down. Is this the right way? Ha! Okay. I didn't have it the right way, so I'm glad I checked. Let's put that there. Okay, so some of this is showing, some of this over here is showing. I don't care. I don't care. It can show. After we get all of this on, that's not going to be the focal point anyway, so it's fine. Your eye will be drawn to all of the elements. And you know, honestly, I like it both ways. I like when you repurpose something and then you get to tell people, guess what this was made of, because it isn't obvious. It's always a nice surprise. But on this particular one, it'll be a nice surprise when someone's flipping through and says, hey, wait a second. I know what you made this from. This is all junk mail. Okay. I'm going to get ink and whatnot everywhere. All right, and then I think that I want to tear this. Is it about the width? Yeah, it's about the width of my ruler. So we'll go a little bit over. I can tear these ends off. So give that a tear, and then give this a tear. Well, or not. That's what happens when you don't hold it down. You got to hold your straight edge down. Otherwise, the paper just slips right out, right? Okay, so there we go. Perfect. Not that this needs more orange on it. So let's get this put down. Fun, fun. I'm glad I can use all these bits with the orange and stuff in it. This dyed paper was so pretty. And there we go. And we can still add decoration and everything to it. Oh, how pretty. Okay, let's do the back side. And then we'll go back to that pocket. All right, what if we bring in some of these turquoises on this one? Let's bring in some of those blues. Look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, and then what if we put something up here for some writing space? Let's see. Look at what I've got. Will that work? That will work. We're going to make it work because that's gorgeous. Okay. That came together very quickly. don't know why I turn it upside down. I mean, it's the same size no matter what. I don't know why I do that. Okay, I'm going to do a torn edge on either end. So there, and let's put this up here. Here. And what color are we going to use? It's all these blues and these greens, but I do need to put something up here. Let's do scattered straw. Or should we do the, let's do the green. We're going to go ahead and stick with the green. We're going to do the crushed olive. It does have a lot of green in it, that dyed paper, so we'll just go. We'll just stick with it. Okay. I think I did that upside down, but it doesn't really matter. It's not a directional kind of paper. Let's see if I can get that lined up. Perfect. Let's go over this with some of that green. Got a lot of that glue starting to glob up on there. Okay. Oop, this way. Is this wide enough? Okay, good. Whew. I put that down, and then for a second there, I was like, oh no, I don't know that it's wide enough. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit because I'm going to just trim off the edges. I want it to go all the way from one side to the other, and then I'll just give it a trim. Isn't this a beautiful piece of paper? Gorgeous, gorgeous. Okay. Now we're going to go with that side. With these dyed papers, they can look so different from one side to the other. And I don't always check the other side. All right. I'm going to have it overlap just a little bit. I'm going to trim that edge off, but I don't think I went far enough. Oh, I did go over. Oh, wow, I was guessing. There we go. All right, get my scissors, and then we're going to trim this up. And then on this side, trying to get it close, but also not cut those edges. All right, I'm going to come back in here. Some of that green, I really hit that end. And same over here. How pretty is that? Okay, writing space, writing space, writing space if you wanted, or we can also come in and add like a pocket or some decoration or an element there. So look, hardly any time at all. I love collage. We're using up so many scraps. Fantastic. Okay. So we already decided we were going to do what, a little pocket out of this fox. So we've got that planned. I'm going to set this aside real quick and we'll work on this envelope. And it's kind of gnarly there. I'm going to go ahead and glue this flap down. Am I? I'm not. Because if I did that now, it would be a little bit harder to work on the inside of this. As it is right now, I can actually open it up. So I'm not going to do that. All right, let's see. I kind of want to fix this edge though, because it is going to be on the other side. What if we do something with these pumpkins? This seems to go all the way to the edge. It's the only problem I'm having here with the glue. Okay, so we're going to cover it. That won't be a problem. I do want something in the background. I think that looks good. All right, so we're going to cut it. We're going to trim it right about there. Just going to mark it with my fingernail and then go to my cutter. All right, and then anything that's, you know, crooked, I'll fix later. So we're going to go all the way to the edge. We're going to try to go up as much as possible to cover that hole, but I also want to give a nice base to the back of this. So now we're going to have a nice backing. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, it all fits. Okay. Let me glue this up. All right. Going all the way over. Perfect. You know what is not perfect? I need to clean this off. I was like, that looks really hazy. I didn't clean that off. And so when we dyed it, you know, it was picking up the ink. And those windows do need to be cleaned. All right. Oh, and then I ended up getting it kind of like spot on. That never happens. I'm going to use the Wild Honey oxide to put the ink around this. I'm going to put a notch here, but I also want to make sure that the notch is not going to come down so much that it shows on the other side. Does that make sense? So I've got this really thin, I've got this really small area here where I can put a notch and it's not going to, and that was nowhere near centered. But now at least I have kind of an idea. Okay. I'm going to move it over just a hair this way and go down a little bit more. Okay, still covered. How does that look? It's not as obvious. Let's ink it up. And I'm going to leave that jaggedy like that. I think that it looks good personally. All right. I think that, I mean, that's really it other than the insert. We could put something down here along the bottom. Like, do we want to put like just some fall leaves? We can just put a strip there like this. Let me see what I've got in here. See if there's anything. Yeah, these are just Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to. Actually, let's do this. You see those little words there? Let's do that. Okay, these guys. What if we ran those across the bottom of that there and kind of just camouflaged it? I'm going to cut this strip out right here. Cozy Faith, Friends, Blessed, and Grateful. Grab my burnishing tool. So fancy. My popsicle stick. So the L. A little bit on the L there. What do we think? And then we can put this little pumpkin over there. These rub-ons are so cute. Cute, cute. I like it. Let's go ahead and get this attached. How about there? That looks good. So you can kind of see the top part of that. It's not hidden. Now let's go ahead and get this flap glued down. And then we'll work on what we were going to do here, which I think is similar to this. We were just going to do a pocket with those foxes. That is not a straight line. That was obvious even to me in my crooked eye. Okay, I'm going to move this in as much as I can. There we go. We're going to use this orange. Let me get this glued down. I like that this is showing. Change of plans. What do we think? And then we can do like the little fox insert inside the pocket. Let's go ahead and do that. Let me make sure that this is trimmed up nicely, evenly. All right. And then it's already open on this side and the bottom. So let me see how much more I want to take off. We're going to take off like right about there. Okay. That was my precise measuring. That's why things are crooked around here all the time, guys. Okay, so let's see. Let me go ahead and put a notch in here. Oh, again, with this flimsy paper. Okay. When you have thin paper, like these envelopes and stuff, if you put some cardstock behind it when you punch it, it should punch better. There we go. I am going to go ahead and glue here and here to seal this back up. And now we've got a pocket. And then I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm going to ink it up and then I'm going to glue it down. Do we want to do, let's do contrasting inks. I usually try to keep it all the same so that it makes it a little bit more cohesive. I like to do all the same little inks, but, and I know it would pop, but this is such a complementary color that I don't mind. I don't mind. And we don't want to glue it down yet because I do want to put some of this down. Are any of you doing an autumn theme, or did you decide to do a different type of theme? If anyone's joining me. If you're playing along, or if you plan to do one later, let me know. Let me know what theme that you're working on or that you're planning. Oh my goodness. Oh, you know what could be interesting is if we did one of these and used scraps, but like just use the scraps and tried to make it coordinate and work no matter what they looked like. That would be a bit of a challenge, trying to make it all kind of cohesive and you weren't able to separate it out like I did here, right? Okay. I'm going to trim this. This is cute, cute. Gonna give it an ink. All right, let's put a little tab on him. I like this. It's a pretty color. Pull up my tab punch. A bit of a mess with the glue today. Okay. That will insert right there like this. How cute is that? Okay, let's figure this out. I don't mind leaving this. Let's put something here though. I am not finding anything, which is fine. You know what? You don't force it. Don't force it. If something doesn't just jump out at you, don't force it. Set it aside and you can come back to it later. You come back to it later when you're putting all the final touches on, all the finishing touches, and then fix it then. Or you may end up just liking it the way it is. Don't force it. I should know that. I know better. I know better. Okay. I am going to take this green. And I should have gone over that edge, and I did not before I added that pocket. But I'm going to go ahead and hit all of this now. Yeah, let's get all of this. And I'm using the green because the green was the base underneath this. I dyed this all with the with crushed olive and that tea concentrate. Okay. All right. I think that that's it. So this is it. This is one insert. It didn't take us a terribly long time. It's not completely done. We'll also need to go in and add some ephemera. Like there's a journaling tag that'll need to be added. Oh, you know what we did not do? What I did not do. Look. So this part right here is visible where the window is still glued down, and I was going to cover that up and I did not. So I've got to go back and find something. Yes, no? What if I did this and then this? And that way it kind of just decorated that space. Or this, and then this. What do you guys think? When you're struggling with things like this, a lot of times a good thing to do, and I can't do it now, obviously, but a lot of times a good thing to do is to take a picture of it and then to flip back and forth and see which one is more pleasing to the eye. I think that I'm going to use this one. We've got all of that green in the background. So that is what I'm going to do, but I am going to tear this at an angle like that. Okay. So let's put this down. And I left my needle out of my glue, and my glue is clogged, and now I don't know where my needle is. Lots of issues in the studio today. That nozzle is clogged, and I need my needle, and it is nowhere to be found. There it is. Now I lost my paper. There it is. Oh, goodness. Apparently all is not well here. And then we'll add that there. And it's not high contrast, it kind of blends, but it works. There we go. Okay, now, where's my needle? There we go. I think it's probably time to call that a wrap anyway. Because I'm losing things and I can't find half the stuff that is right in front of my face. Okay, now let's take a look at this. We have got, and I may come back and add something there later, maybe not, but we've got all this great writing space. Look at that green and the way those tones look. And then all of this is the inking that we did, you know, before on these blank pages. And look at this, it just adds so much. Let me bring it in closer so you can really see a lot of that detail. And then we've got our little pocket here. And then this is also a pocket, remember? So I'll be able to create something that goes there, but when it's pulled out, it'll still have an image in the background. So we've got something here, but let's go in and look at the details, because I really want you to be able to see like all that little bit of goodness here, that dyed stuff that we worked on in the beginning. And then we've got this writing space. There's a journal, there's a place for a tag or a journal card here. And again, we can come through and add more decor. The fact that the matte layer behind this is a dark blue doesn't bother me. But look at that. So we've totally transformed it, but it's still obvious that this was made from junk mail, but it's not the focal point. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to keep working on decorating pages, and then in tomorrow's video, we'll put the signatures together and we'll bind our journal and do a flip through the end. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comment section and I'll be sure to answer. Thanks for spending some time with me, and until next time, bye.